Hi everyone. I just thought I would pick up on the elephant in the room. If you've been watching YouTube and seeing the mainstream media or been looking at any of the other channels like on Facebook or Twitter or anything else, we're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial that's been going on that is now under the jury's purview. And just if you're on the right or the left or Democrat or Republican, it doesn't really matter now. I hope everyone who watches this will actually think this over and listen, because I'm pretty sure everyone has their own point of view as to how this should go or what they think of Kyle Rittenhouse. But I've been keeping track of the actual case pretty well from the start and what's been going on in the trial, and listening to the breakdown from several different lawyer streams. So I've got what I think is a pretty good handle as to what's really been going on if you haven't been watching or paying attention to the facts. So, what I would like to do is to break down all of the different arguments of the left, of the Black Lives Matter, of all of what the mainstream media has been saying about Kyle Rittenhouse, and take it point by point, so that we can see what was been talked about in the trial and what actually has a factual basis and what does not. A lot of the mainstream media and the Black Lives Matter and others have been, missed also Antifa, have been saying that Kyle Rittenhouse is a racist, and that he was a racist for shooting people. Excuse me. I would like to have those people explain how, very specifically, how Kyle Rittenhouse is a racist on those shootings. Because the victims were all white. Every one of them. And on his social media, he has not made any racist comments, no racist posts, videos, or anything like that. You can search him yourself. You could ask his friends. He has never made any kind of comments like that. He's never been with any white supremacist groups or anything like that. The next argument people are saying is that it's racist because there hasn't been enough people of color on the jury. you have to realize that juries are selected based on population of the area, and it's selected at random. Just, have you looked at Kenosha or Wisconsin? It's whiter than white. Then, of course, there's the jury selection process by the defense and the DA. You get what you get after the random selection process. Let me tell you what the racial breakdown is of Wisconsin. This is from the worldatlas.com. 85.9% are white. 6.35% are African Americans. 2.64 are Asian. 1.93 are other. 0.87% are Native Americans, and 0.03 are Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. And from the worldpopulationreview.com, specifically for the city of Kenosha, 79.51 are white, 11.46 are African American, 3.99 are mixed, 2.8 are other, 1.68 are Asian, 0.56 are Native American, and 0.02 are Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. So any way you look at it, that is a very high percentage of white people in that area. And just the mainstream media have also accused Kyle of being a self-stylized militia member. He hasn't been, nor has he been. No posts, videos, comments, again. Nothing like that. They keep accusing him of it, but they never provide any evidence of it. Nowhere. They keep saying that he is, but they won't show any posts, any emails, any groups he's associated with, nothing. Because they don't have any. And now, one of the big things that they keep accusing Kyle of, that, he crossed state lines. How scary. He traveled 21 miles, according to some of the routes he could take. How many other people have commutes that are longer than that? The mainstream media harps on that Kyle went across state lines like it's a major thing for him to be over there, yet they totally ignore and or support all the illegal immigrants that come across our southern border left, right, and center. One person actually has a legal right to live here, and hundreds of thousands of other people don't, okay? As for him going across state lines, he has a job in Kenosha that his boss asked him to look out for. He has family and friends that live in Kenosha, including his father. He had also lived in Kenosha before. So it would make perfect sense for him to go there. So that going across state lines makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Another argument that a lot of people keep making is that Kyle took his gun across state lines to go to Kenosha, right? Wrong. His friend in Kenosha was holding the AR-15 that Kyle owned in Kenosha for him, which he picked up from him before going to excuse me. He picked up from him before going to his work to defend it. He never took it across state lines. Another argument was that Kyle was too young to own or have a gun, in Wisconsin or otherwise. Wrong. He was too young to own a handgun, but he could own a long gun, like a rifle, a shotgun, etc. If he was 16 or younger, just if he was 16 or older, he could own one. If he was below 16, he had to be supervised by an adult at all times with a weapon, but he wouldn't be able to own it. In fact, the DA confirmed this information in court, and the charges were dropped. Excuse me. And then another accusation was that Kyle had murdered the protesters. How? During video evidence and testimonies given showed that two of the people shot were trying to harm and or kill Kyle while he was trying to remove himself from conflict. The two that were killed, the shots fired happened in less than 1 second while he was trying to defend himself. Then the other survivor, Gage Rosenkreutz, who got shot in the arm, had testified in court. He had stated on the stand that when he had his hands up, Kyle did not shoot and lowered his weapon. Then when Gage reached back, grabbed his gun, his handgun, and then pointed at Kyle's head and advanced, it was only then that Kyle shot him in the arm. That is classic self-defense by law if there ever was one. Another argument that has been made by the left and by the mainstream media is that he should never have been there. You need to remember at that time that all across our country, including Wisconsin and in Kenosha, that the riots have been going on for some time now. And in Kenosha, the police have been ordered to stand down and do nothing about the looting, the rioting, and arson at that time. The mainstream media could argue all they want that there were just peaceful protests. But anyone who wants to really look at what was going on know otherwise. Those who still complain that Kyle shouldn't be there, should the rioters, especially those who came from out of state, across the country, really? What other options were left to citizens who cared about their neighbors, family, and friends? It was a tragedy that people were killed. But also, those rioters had brought weapons. And those two weren't the only ones that died during those riots in Kenosha. And just towards the end of the trial, the DA tried to say that Kyle instigated the conflict with grainy photos and video. Then after the defense's closing showed a very clear drone video which didn't show anything of the sort, despite the DA tried to song and dance it all the way that they could. Now this leads me to other complaints of this trial. People have been saying that the judge was biased. How? Be very specific when you say that. Because of what rulings and on what grounds? People say it's because of his ringtone. Really? He was appointed by a Democrat. He's an older man, a boomer. So you're grumpy because he just might want to be, because he might want to care for our country, the Constitution, and the law. Really? From what I have seen and watched from different evaluations from other lawyers of the judge's decisions, he's been very strict and unbiased. And in fact, he's been somewhat favorable towards the DA despite what it looks like. Why? Because despite all the malfeasance that has been done by the DA, and there has been plenty, the judge has let him continue on with the trial and let it continue on. The judge could have quite easily done a directed verdict based on the evidence or dismissal with prejudice based on the DA's actions. He could have done either one of them. Now let me address the DA's actions in case you're wondering just what he has done. Unfortunately, I don't have the defense's latest filing for a dismissal with prejudice to compare my notes with it, but here's just a few things. The DA has tried to introduce evidence into the trial twice, and perhaps more, even though the judge had already ruled that it was inadmissible. He also had tried to make Kyle's Fifth Amendment rights as an admission of guilt during the trial, meaning that when he was silent while in custody until he could get an attorney, he tried to make that an admission of guilt. Not only is that unconstitutional, it's illegal. He also tried to discredit his own witness who provided video evidence. He was a reporter who got a lawyer to provide video evidence to both the DA and the defense because he was out on a project at the time. He tried to make the reporter look bad for having a lawyer in the first place, which is also his constitutional right to do so. And the judge had to slap him down again. And then also the DA also tried to suborn perjury from his own witness. One had come in to the police earlier and gave a sworn statement. Later, the DA showed him a video of what was going on and asked him if he would like to change his sworn statement. he had said no because that wasn't what he had seen. The DA had shown him the video again and asked him again twice. This particular bit of information had come out during the trial. Also, the video and photographic evidence the DA admitted into evidence to try and show that Kyle had instigated conflict. The DA had withheld the high-definition video. Then he had created an alternate poor-quality video to email to the defense and said that was the video available. Then showed the clear quality video at the closing arguments. Oops. Things had blown up over that too. The judge wants to actually put him under oath and question him about whether or not he had created a different video to give to the defense, because withholding exculpatory evidence like that from the defense is also illegal, and from all the other shenanigans is also another thing as well. And just after deliberations had started, it turns out, you remember in the video, when you see all the different videos that had been out during the videos that you had seen where Kyle had shot people, you remember Jump Kick Man? It turns out that Jump Kick Man had been identified. The reporter who found him won't name him since he hasn't been charged with the Rittenhouse case, but the man in question is a 40-year-old black man from Kenosha with a very extensive criminal record. He was on probation at the time for domestic violence battery, and some of his other felony convictions were car theft, drug possession, ID theft, and escaping custody. Jump Kick Man had contacted the DA and offered to testify, but in exchange for immunity from an ongoing drunk driving and domestic abuse case which he had been charged with in June. The DA had declined the offer and didn't want to call him. But since the DA didn't want to call him, why wasn't the ID of Jump Kick Man shared with the defense and the court? Don't you think that information would also be just a little relevant? That the defense might want to call him anyway? Just on a personal note myself, the intentional harassment of the jurors and the judge are uncalled for. The threats of riots, if there isn't a conviction, are not either. They just want to have blood. It's quite obvious that the actions are to sway the jury their way through intimidation and fear despite the facts, no matter the outcome. They don't care what they are, they just want power, and they hunger for it. They want destruction, blood, and death. I think that on a state and federal level, there should be a law that takes this into account. When mass intimidation and riots like this take place to get a determined outcome, they are trying to get this, if they're trying to get a guilty verdict, and it's reasonable that the persons involved are innocent, that the judge should dismiss the case with prejudice on all counts. Boom. It's over. if they're trying to force an innocent verdict and it's reasonable that the persons involved are guilty, the trial continues. But there are mass arrests. Those who have videotaped, photographed, or doxed jurors, the judge, DA, and who have threatened them via email, in person, phone, video, etc., they're charged with felonies. For all the others, Class A misdemeanors, unless they can be charged higher or otherwise on other crimes. And there's no discharge of the charges unless it can be reasonably proven that they weren't there for the riot, protest. And this also includes mainstream media personalities who threaten jurors via news broadcasts and tweets. Just a thought. And also, on a personal note, just from all the misconduct by this DA, I honestly hope that this judge throws the book at him and starts disbarment proceedings on him. The DA non-verbally admitted that this trial was political instead of based on evidence and the truth. As for the case itself, I hope the jurors come back with an innocent on all charges, despite the intimidation that is being put on them by those who want a lynching instead of justice. But if the jurors won't do it, I hope the judge does either a directed verdict or dismissal with prejudice after they come back. One way or the other, Kyle going to jail would be a travesty based on all of the available evidence currently provided. Let me know what you think about this from everything that I've been able to provide you in my comments, okay? Thanks.